Hey, I'm DJ. Welcome to my channel. So, did you ever have that one kid in school? You know, the one that everyone avoided? Maybe you felt bad and tried to talk to them once and they latched onto you like a tick filled with Lyme disease. Perhaps you tried avoiding them, or maybe you were hardcore and just told them to go away. They either never spoke at all or had terrible volume control and yelled a lot. Maybe they smelled weird or had no fashion sense. Maybe the way they spoke was odd, the intonation was off, the cadence was awkward, they used metaphors incorrectly, they quoted movies too much, or they just never knew when to shut up. Either way, you always knew something was up with them. And you know what? You're right. Something was up with them. Maybe while I was listing those off traits, you felt bad about yourself because they reminded you of how you were in school, or even how you are now. Chances are, if that's the case, you identify as or are formally diagnosed as some form of neurodivergent, autistic, ADHD, etc. When I was in school, I was that off-putting kid. I dressed wrong, said the wrong things, reacted to situations incorrectly, made friends wrong. I was the kid that was wrong. I happen to identify as autistic. I'm not formally diagnosed, but my fiance, who is formally diagnosed, and several other diagnosed autistic people have said I'm probably autistic. So let's consider my diagnosis unofficial, but peer-reviewed. But if my experience isn't good enough because I'm not diagnosed, and it's fine to think that, my fiance was also that off-putting kid. She spoke weirdly, acted weirdly, was called ableist slurs by other kids. Something I noticed is that if one of these weird kids was known by their peers to be diagnosed with something, the bullying wasn't as in your face. Maybe they do more sneaky bullying, like putting their arm around the autistic kid and saying, "We're best friends, right?" Or encouraging the kid with ADHD to embarrass themselves. You should do a crazy dance right now in the middle of class. It would be awesome. I think there's an urge within certain people to correct quote-unquote incorrect behavior. The autistic kid speaks funny and I don't like it, but I can't say anything about it or I'll be labeled an asshole. Maybe I can subtly bully it out of them so I feel less uncomfortable. That's more or less how I view those fake disorder cringe compilations. Now, I'm not referring to those people who have been basically confirmed to be faking disorders, where people have deep dived into their symptoms and none of them align with that of the diagnosis they claim to have, or people who are clearly malingering, for example, those who claim to have DID and record their alters having conversations with each other, switching from alter to alter within milliseconds with no dissociation period. Those people probably want fame or attention, which seems like either way they have some sort of disorder. In this instance, I'm talking about those Reddit threads and YouTube compilations where they have clips of someone stimming, switching, ticking, or just talking about their struggles with a disorder. But there's no proof that these people are faking. In fact, most of the proof is just that they're being too cringe or too over the top. But that's not proof of faking. In fact, a lot of neurodivergent people can attest to being called too over the top when they were younger, and a lot can attest to being called cringe or embarrassing for acting neurodivergent. It's difficult to post a clip of some innocent autistic girl flapping her arms about as a form of stimming and caption it autism cringe without getting cancelled. But if you accuse her of faking, you can make fun of her weird autistic behaviour all you want and no one will care. Because we all know that real neurodivergent people are normal, not cringe, don't do anything weird, and don't act embarrassing in the eyes of neurotypicals ever. When I think of the term fake disorder cringe, my mind immediately goes to ticks and roses. Now that is a whole can of worms that I am not going to be munching down on in this video. The TLDW is that ticks and roses claim to have Tourette syndrome and was believed by many to be faking due to various reasons such as their ticks being very convenient or only appearing during certain videos and almost completely disappearing in others. Their own family coming out and saying they were faking, as well as them seemingly creating fake medical documents to prove their diagnosis. Now, in my personal opinion, it was extremely weird that people were researching and investigating this person's personal life, demanding personal medical documents instead of just, reporting their account and blocking them. Though I understand people did this because yes, pretending to have a disorder and spreading false information about it is bad. However, the ticks and roses situation represents a big part of what I hate about fake disorder cringe circles, which is ignoring signs of mental illness and most likely making the problems worse. In my opinion, ticks and roses went to a lot of effort to allegedly pretend they had Tourette's. I say allegedly not because I believe them, but just so they don't take down this video for misinformation or bullying or something. Ticks and Roses has been torn to shreds, looked at under a microscope, and has had every part of their story picked apart, yet they apparently still claim to have Tourette's. Now, while it is bad to lie about a diagnosis and cause stigma around that diagnosis, it is clear to me that while Tix and Roses probably doesn't have Tourette's syndrome, they are definitely still very mentally ill. And to me, it seems to be a mental illness linked to identity, such as a personality disorder. I personally don't think that posting an obviously mentally ill person in forums and compilations where you bully them and berate them is going to help. In fact, I think it's only going to make them double down, which for the most part, Tix and Roses has done just that. There's also a more recent TikToker who has claimed to have DID, who I'm not going to name because that's not going to help anyone. It's obvious that they don't match the symptoms of DID, such as going into a dissociative state before switching. In most of their videos, they switch in mere milliseconds, but this person was allegedly at some point a heavy drug user, and judging by their videos, they are most likely still using heavy drugs. This could be a reason why they are faking DID, not because they are knowingly faking, but because these mind-altering substances have warped their perception, possibly causing psychosis, and it has led them to believe they have DID. They also probably have some form of mental illness, as most drug users tend to do. Now, mental illness and drug abuse aren't excuses for pretending to have and causing misinformation and stigma about a certain disorder, but we really should not be making cringe compilations and subreddits dedicated to mocking mentally ill and drug-addicted persons. The last creator I want to touch on, who actually sparked this entire video idea, is raincloud.heart, or Rain MJ Eden. You have probably seen them in a lot of fake disorder cringe compilations or memes about girl autism. Rain claims to have autism and previously made TikTok videos talking about autism and showing themselves stimming. Now, Rain did nothing overtly to suggest they were faking autism, like conflicting symptoms, creating fake medical documents, spreading misinformation about autism, etc. Rain merely made a lot of videos showing themselves stimming. The way they stimmed was very energetic and some would say over the top. This led to people starting to call them cringe and embarrassing. When people started rightfully calling these labels ableist, Rain began getting accused of faking. As far as my research has taken me, there has never been any proof that Rain faked their autism. The main catalyst for Rain being labelled a faker was when a disabled TikToker named Tiny Comedian called them out. In the video that Tiny Comedian was stitching, Rain was stimming.
Hi, I saw your clip and what you're model mimicking is really not something that has to do with stimming or autism.
Now, Tiny Comedian says that the movements in Rain's video were nothing to do with stimming or autism, which is a ridiculous claim because stimming can be any movement that stimulates you. Stimming is not involuntary, contrary to popular belief. It is a series of conscious, repetitive movements that anyone, autistic or neurotypical, does to soothe themselves. This can be rocking back and forth, cracking your knuckles, waving your hands. Just because someone is performing a series of movements that you do involuntarily doesn't mean they're mocking you. That just happens to be something they do to stim. It has nothing to do with you, and it is baffling to me that you would find someone stimming to be offensive. It is a self-soothing ritual, like rocking on a chair. Now, I actually found this Tiny Comedian clip through a video by the YouTuber Ablaze, who did a horribly researched video on autism to invalidate Rain.
And she's clearly doing this to gain extra attention.
This particular claim bothers me because you don't know that. What symptoms do you expect? What action is too much to be considered drastically over-exaggerating their symptoms? Do you know Rain? Do you know their regular symptoms? Are you trained in the area of autism? Probably not, because the research in this video is dog water. A lot of autistic people will attest to being referred to as overdramatic and exaggerating when they have meltdowns or they stim. This argument is complete dog water.
The only thing I'm going to agree with this person, yes, it is a hellscape. But that also means, yes, she doesn't have any of her content on any of her pages anymore. Maybe, perhaps, shockingly, content like this gets a little bit of backlash.
He acknowledges here that Rain is calling TikTok a hellscape, and this is most likely because of the abuse they received. He agrees that TikTok is a hellscape. He then shows a video of them stimming and basically says, well, what do you expect when you post stuff like this? This is what I was talking about with the ableism in these communities. Rain should expect bullying because they're being visibly autistic. And you can't even say, no, it's because they're pretending to be autistic, because you have no proof they're faking. You even say at the start of the video that you're not claiming they're faking.
I'm not saying her having autism or DID and is necessarily faking it. No.
So basically, behaving like an autistic person is worthy of mockery and they should expect to be chased off the internet for it.
Identity and a choice, a personal...
While further on talking about stimming, which is when you feel a overload and your body moves uncontrollably.
You clearly did no research for this video, so let me do it for you.
I just want to make it clear, we all stim. All of our leisure activities are stim behaviors. They're self-stimulatory behaviors. Basically, it's the function of automatic reinforcement, which means that we do things for pleasure.
Everyone stims, not just autistic people. It is an act of self-soothing. It is not involuntary and uncontrollable. How are you going to attack Rain for spreading misinformation when you yourself can't even do an iota of research? Anyway, the only way you will avoid being put in a fake disorder cringe compilation as a neurodivergent person on the internet is, if you never post a video of yourself, tone down your neurodivergent behavior to a level that doesn't cringe out neurotypicals, openly criticize other people who identify as neurodivergent online and accuse them of faking, or mask. I think the reason that neurotypicals tend to think everyone who is cringe and neurodivergent is faking is because they're used to most of the neurodivergent people around them masking, and I'm not going to put it past neurotypes to make fun of people they know are neurodivergent. Hell, there's a new fuck-ass trend where you post a clip of a physically disabled person living their life and caption it, "Oh my god, I'm going to hell for laughing." Because if you admit it's bad you're bullying disabled people, it's okay to bully them because you're being honest. Also, I'm just going to add that men and boys are not nearly as commonly featured in these fake disorder cringe compilations. It makes me think of the posts that Rain is commonly featured in, the ones that say girl autism versus boy autism. Misogyny plays a big part in the recent uptick in mocking neurodivergent people, mainly because women are criticized for everything they do. Men are usually believed when they say they have a condition, and women typically aren't. And most women don't get diagnosed with neurodivergencies even if they have them, because psychology is still largely male-focused. So yeah, that's my rant about why fake disorder cringe is probably just ableism, very thinly veiled. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and have a good day.